Hello and welcome to a new video on my channel. Today, I'm excited to present part 2 of the story, Pandora and the Eternal War. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you do, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to share it with your friends to help spread the word. Without further ado, let's dive straight into the story.
Parents, her eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and determination. After the extraordinary display of her ability to transform into a human, she couldn't suppress the growing desire inside her to learn more about the world of humans. She had always been isolated in the forest, hidden away from society, protected from the dangers that lurked outside their chaos-infused home. But now, with her newfound ability, she had a chance to see the world beyond. "Now that I've shown you I can turn into a human," Pandora began, her voice steady but hopeful, "I want to go to the human cities. I want to see how they live. I need to understand them, see the world for myself." Serafina, her mother, immediately tensed. Her protective instincts flared as she exchanged a worried glance with Elias. "Pandora, that's far too dangerous," Serafina said, her voice firm. "The human cities are no place for you. You could be exposed at any moment. What if you accidentally transform back? The risk is too great." Pandora's heart sank, but before she could respond, Elias interjected. "Serafina, think about it," he said, leaning forward slightly. "Chaos energy can't be perceived by normal means. There's no device in the Hero Association capable of detecting it. If that were possible, they wouldn't have so many problems with chaos regions, would they?" Serafina frowned, clearly understanding the point but unwilling to relent. Elias continued, "That's why we can live here in this E-ranked chaos zone without fear of being found. Chaos energy is undetectable unless it manifests visually, and even then, it's only the appearance of the energy, like its usual purple glow or the occasional darkness, that people notice. But otherwise, it's invisible to them." Serafina's lips pressed together. "I understand that," she admitted. "But what if she transforms back in the city? What if something happens and she's exposed? The people there don't know we have a child, and they certainly won't be kind if they discover she's not like them." Pandora shook her head, eager to present her argument. "Mother, the transformation doesn't just happen. It's triggered by a deep, strong need or desire. I don't want to become a vampire when I'm around humans. Quite the opposite, if anything, I'd be too afraid of being discovered to even think about it. So, logically speaking, I wouldn't transform unless I truly needed to." Her mother's eyes softened as Pandora continued, "The last time I transformed into a human, there were no purple lights or flashes of chaos energy. My hair just changed color, and my eyes stopped glowing. No one would notice those things in the middle of a human city. They'll just think I'm one of them." Serafina sighed, torn between her protective instincts and the logic her daughter and husband were presenting. Elias gently placed his hand on hers. "Pandora's right. As long as she's careful, no one will see the transformation. And even if she did revert back to a vampire form, as long as there are no noticeable visual cues of chaos energy, no one would be able to tell. It's only dangerous if her emotions trigger something strong." Slowly, Serafina's resistance seemed to waver. "I see your point, but I still don't like it. Even if I agree with you both, I don't want her going into that city alone. Alpha is a massive human metropolis. There are too many variables." Elias nodded thoughtfully. "You're right, she can't go alone. But she also can't be accompanied by someone from our kind. A vampire would draw too much suspicion, even with the chaos energy hidden." He paused for a moment, rubbing his chin as he thought. Suddenly, an idea sparked. "I know someone who might be able to help. He's an old friend, someone I trust. He's not part of the Hero Association anymore, he left, just like I did." Serafina raised an eyebrow. "Who do you mean?" Elias smiled slightly. "Leon. The ice hero, Blizzard. He's a human who deserted the Hero Association years ago. He could accompany Pandora, watch over her, and make sure nothing goes wrong." Serafina seemed to consider this, her concern still evident but now mingled with the trust she had in her husband's judgment. "Leon. Blizzard," she repeated, the name bringing up faint memories of the hero. "You've think he'd agree to this?" Elias nodded. "I'm certain he would. He's no fan of the hero association either, and he understands what it means to be different. If anyone can help Pandora blend in, it's him. Plus, with his ice abilities, he'll be more than capable of handling any situation that arises." Pandora felt a surge of hope as her parents' conversation shifted. It wasn't a firm yes yet, but they were considering it. The possibility of finally seeing the human world felt closer than ever. Serafina glanced at her daughter, her expression still concerned, but the fight had left her voice. "If Leon agrees, then maybe we can allow it. But only if he's with you every step of the way. This is still a huge risk." Pandora couldn't contain her excitement, her eyes lighting up. "Thank you, Mother. I promise I'll be careful. I need to see it for myself. I'll make sure not to put myself in any danger." Elias smiled, giving Pandora a reassuring nod. "I'll reach out to Leon. If anyone can ensure your safety, it's him." Serafina, still hesitant but now more resigned to the idea, added, "But remember, Pandora, this doesn't mean you can be reckless. You need to remain cautious at all times. If anything feels wrong, you come back immediately." Pandora nodded eagerly, feeling a sense of relief and anticipation building inside her. Soon, she might finally step into the human world and see what it was like to live among them. Elias stood up from the table, his face set with resolve. "If we're going to do this, I'd better get going early. It's a long journey to find Leon and bring him back." Pandora felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you, Father," she said sincerely. Serafina, although worried, nodded in agreement. "I'll come with you to the edge of the chaos zone," Serafina said, her voice tinged with concern. "Pandora can stay with me until you're on your way." As the three of them walked through the dense forest surrounding the chaos zone, a thick, swirling mist obscured their vision beyond 5 meters. The fog was alive with sporadic glimmers of chaos crystals embedded in the ground. The ethereal light they emitted was both captivating and unsettling. Elias turned to Pandora. "Pandora, could you show us how you absorb chaos energy?" Pandora hesitated, unsure of how to demonstrate. However, she was eager to help her parents. "I'm not entirely sure how to show it," she admitted, "but I'll try my best." Focusing intently, Pandora attempted to evoke the same deep hunger she had felt the previous night. To her surprise, it worked with relative ease. The mist around her began to swirl towards her hands, which were soon enveloped in a halo of violet flames. These violet flames represented a more intense form of chaos energy, while the mist was merely an ambient aura. As the energy from the mist coalesced around her, Pandora felt a deepening of the hunger within her. She couldn't fully grasp where this would lead, but she was pleased to be able to manifest her human form effectively. Her mother watched in amazement, curiosity shining in her eyes. Pandora approached a bright violet chaos crystal protruding from the ground. She placed her hand gently on it, and the crystal began to crack and disintegrate. Tiny violet shards broke away, floating in all directions. These fragments gradually dissolved into violet energy, which streamed into Pandora's veins, illuminating them from within. Serafina gasped, her eyes wide with astonishment. Elias stood in stunned silence. "I've never felt anything like this in my life," he finally said, his voice low and incredulous. "Honestly, I still can't quite grasp what you're doing. It's as though I'm blind to something that's happening right in front of me. But it must be because chaos energy cannot be perceived normally. This means, my dear daughter, you truly possess a chaos-based superpower." Pandora looked at her parents, seeing their shock and fascination. Their reaction made her realize just how extraordinary her ability was. Not only could she control chaos, but her very existence was defying logical explanation. The fact that she could touch chaos without destabilizing it was a testament to her unique nature. A thought crossed Pandora's mind. She reached out, grabbing another chaos crystal and suppressing her urge to consume it. With a swift, forceful throw, she launched the crystal into the woods. Moments later, as it hit the ground, it erupted in a stunning explosion, akin to a grenade. Her suspicion was confirmed. Her mere touch seemed to stabilize chaos energy, allowing her to use chaos crystals as potent explosives. The demonstration was both thrilling and unsettling. As they reached the edge of the chaos zone, Elias turned to Serafina and Pandora. "We're at the boundary now. I'll make contact with Leon and ensure everything is set for Pandora's journey." Pandora watched as her father, Elias, took a few steps away from her. He knelt down, and flames erupted around him, forming a protective barrier. As the fire grew brighter, Elias's figure was enveloped by a blinding light. Pandora thought to herself, "I really don't need to worry about my father. His ability allows him to copy others' powers, and he already possesses 4 S-rank abilities. One of those lets him teleport to places he's been before. If he's in danger, he'll just return to me." She wondered why he didn't just teleport directly to his friend. Perhaps he knew where Leon was but couldn't teleport there because he hadn't been there yet. It's possible, she mused. Pandora turned her gaze to the chaos zone behind her and then to the vast, lush valley before her. The valley was vast and beautiful, a place she had called home her entire life. She could see no sign of human life or civilization in any direction. The sky was clear blue, dotted with a few fluffy white clouds, and the sun shone brightly, just as it had countless times before. After taking one last look at her surroundings, she turned to her mother, Serafina, and asked, "What should we do now? It might be a while before he returns." Serafina shrugged. "Would you like to go hunting?" Pandora considered it. With little else to do, she agreed. Her mother headed back to their treehouse, while Pandora sprinted through the forest she knew like the back of her hand. As she navigated the familiar terrain, she came across a mutated deer, now roughly 4 times the size of a normal one. It had a large bite wound on its neck. Pandora recognized it as possibly the same deer she had hunted earlier, though she wasn't sure exactly how long ago that had been. The sight of the mutated creature surprised her. Without hesitation, she charged at the deer. Even though it was now a monster, Pandora felt confident it posed no real threat. She tackled it to the ground, but was taken aback by its newfound strength. The deer snarled, exposing sharp fangs, and attempted to bite her. She narrowly avoided the bite, but suddenly, a slimy, sticky tentacle wrapped around her waist. She looked down to see that it was the deer's tongue. With a quick motion, Pandora severed the tentacle with her hand and sank her teeth into the deer's neck. As she fed, she experienced something new. She felt a strange activation within her, as if a spherical ability within her was responding. For the first time, she could sense the ability sphere of another creature. It startled her deeply. Pandora hesitated, overwhelmed by the sudden and unfamiliar sensation. As Pandora savored the deer's essence, the strange sensation she had felt started to fade away. It was fleeting, but she could sense her own chaos energy, the core of her being, reacting to it in an unusual way. A peculiar thought crossed her mind. If her chaos ability was unique and defied the laws of this world, could it be that what she had just experienced was a weaker manifestation of her true potential? Perhaps she had yet to tap into its full power. Looking at the deer, Pandora realized she didn't consider it a significant threat. It was a monster, but it wasn't a danger she couldn't handle. She decided to ignore it and swiftly leapt away from the struggling creature. As she perched on a nearby tree branch, her thoughts wandered back to her chaos ability. My power, made of pure chaos, must have something to do with manipulating others' abilities. Can I enhance or alter their abilities? What exactly could that entail? Pandora pondered these questions, trying to make sense of her newfound sensations. That evening, Pandora returned to the treehouse and went to bed, the day's events replaying in her mind. The following morning, she awoke and descended from the treehouse. To her surprise, her father was back, having returned without her noticing. He handed her a rolled piece of paper. "Here is the meeting point with Leon," Elias said. "Don't worry, take care of yourself, and don't reveal too much about us. Leon doesn't know that I ran off with a vampire. He believes I simply deserted. He's a kind old man and will answer all your questions. I hope nothing happens to you, but you need to set out early to reach the meeting point in time. If you run at top speed in your vampire form, you'll arrive in 3 hours. Just keep heading north. Here's a compass. You know how to use it." Pandora took the paper and compass, feeling a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The journey ahead was crucial, and she needed to be cautious. She prepared herself for the departure, ready to meet Leon and uncover more about the world she was stepping into. Pandora packed her backpack with the essentials she'd need for the journey ahead. She included her map and the compass her father had given her, ensuring that she was well prepared. With everything packed, she set off at a sprint. 2 hours later, Pandora arrived at the designated meeting point. An old man with dark, almost charcoal gray hair and blue eyes was leaning against a tree. Next to him was a large wolf, so massive that it had a saddle on its back. The sight of the wolf puzzled Pandora. She wondered how an animal could grow to such a size. Is it really possible for an animal to get that big? Pandora asked, her curiosity evident. Leon, noticing her confusion, smiled gently. Yes, it is. This wolf, Lola, is a monster. Pandora immediately tensed, her instincts alerting her to the potential danger. Leon, however, raised a calming hand. Don't worry, he said soothingly. The term, monster, doesn't necessarily mean evil creatures. It includes any beings with supernatural powers. Lola was just a pup when I found her, and she's been a loyal companion ever since. She's intelligent, too, as you can see by the sparkle in her eyes. Lola barked softly, her blue eyes shining with what seemed to be a knowing glint. Pandora, still wary, took a deep breath and tried to relax in her human form. Leon noticed her unusual violet eyes but didn't comment, having seen stranger things during his time with the Hero Association. Shall we head out? Leon suggested, standing up. Pandora nodded and followed the old man and the large wolf. As they walked, Pandora grew curious about Leon's relaxed demeanor. After an hour of hiking, she finally asked, Why haven't you asked me any questions? Aren't you curious about who I am or why I'm here? Leon shrugged casually. Not really. If you don't want to share, that's fine with me. I'm here to help you, not pry into your business. I've heard about your old friend and your situation, and that's enough for me. It's important to me to honor the request of an old friend, even if I don't know all the details. Pandora found Leon's attitude refreshing. His easygoing nature and lack of probing questions made her feel at ease. Leon continued, I'm not too worried about the specifics. I'm just glad to be of assistance. We all have our reasons for things, and I respect that. His cheerful and nonchalant approach was a stark contrast to the seriousness of Pandora's situation, but it was a welcome change. As they walked together, Pandora couldn't help but appreciate how Leon's friendliness and lack of judgment made the journey more bearable. Pandora and Leon, accompanied by the imposing wolf, finally arrived at the towering walls of Metropolis Alpha. The sheer scale of the city's fortifications left Pandora awestruck. The walls were thick and imposing, made of dark metal that seemed to absorb the light. A series of gates and checkpoints lined the perimeter, each guarded by vigilant sentries. As they approached the security checkpoint, Pandora's nerves were on edge. She scanned the area anxiously, but the guards hardly seemed to notice her or Leon. The security personnel, accustomed to the constant flow of citizens and visitors, appeared more focused on larger threats. They were primarily concerned with identifying serious dangers rather than scrutinizing every individual passing through. The guards were formidable, both were A-rank heroes, as indicated by their uniforms and name tags. One of them wore a costume that resembled a pineapple, which seemed oddly out of place yet authoritative. The other was a towering woman, her physique muscular and her skin resembling stone. She stood around 2 meters tall, exuding a formidable presence. Despite their imposing appearance, the guards gave little more than a cursory glance at Leon and Pandora. Leon offered a casual nod, which was reciprocated with a brief acknowledgement from the guards. It was clear that their primary role was to manage potential threats rather than to engage in lengthy interrogations. As they passed through the checkpoint, Pandora was struck by the contrast between the exterior fortress and the interior cityscape. On the other side of the wall, Metropolis Alpha unfolded before her eyes in a dazzling display of modernity. Gleaming skyscrapers of white and silver glass soared into the sky, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight in a multitude of hues. The hum of advanced technology filled the air, with the sound of fusion reactors and propulsion systems creating a soft, constant buzz. Vehicles moved almost silently along the streets, their wheels gliding smoothly over the pavement. Pedestrians navigated the bustling sidewalks, while traffic lights displayed holographic signals from transparent, rounded columns rather than traditional poles. The city was alive with a vibrant energy that contrasted sharply with the quiet, pastoral life Pandora had left behind. Leon led the way, with Lola the wolf attracting a fair amount of attention. While the presence of such a large and unusual animal was noticeable, it did not seem to provoke alarm or suspicion. It was clear that unusual sights were commonplace in the city. Pandora, still taking in the new environment, turned to Leon. "Why does it seem like everyone knows you?" Leon chuckled softly. "I've built quite the reputation around here. I'm known as a bit of a disheveled vagabond, someone who doesn't quite fit in with the usual crowd. People don't trust me much, simply because I'm different. They see me as an outcast, but that's just how it is." Pandora could sense the underlying bitterness in Leon's tone, though he wore a cheerful facade. Despite his reputation, his demeanor remained friendly and welcoming, providing a small comfort amidst the whirlwind of new experiences and emotions she was navigating in the bustling metropolis. As they walked through the bustling streets of Metropolis Alpha, Leon turned to Pandora with a slight grin. "You know, the reason I don't stand out too much around here is partly thanks to Lola's second superpower." Pandora furrowed her brow in confusion. "Second superpower? What do you mean, Leon?" Leon nodded. "Lola actually has 3 different abilities. The first one makes her appear less noticeable to animals, people, and individuals in general. She can make herself look either cute or intimidating, depending on what she wants. This allows her to lure people in or scare them off." Pandora listened intently as Leon continued. "The second ability is distraction or forgetfulness. It ensures that while people do notice her, they quickly forget about her. This means that even though I have a bit of a reputation, when Lola uses her powers, it doesn't take long for me to blend back into the background." Pandora was intrigued but cautious. She had learned to keep her abilities secret, especially something as dangerous and misunderstood as chaos energy. She nodded as Leon explained, but said nothing about her own powers. "And the third ability?" she asked, trying to steer the conversation. Leon smiled enigmatically and paused, looking wistfully into the distance. The third ability remains a secret for now." He shrugged playfully. "But let me show you how I make a bit of extra money." Leon led Pandora to a futuristic machine embedded in the wall. He placed his hand on a fingerprint scanner, using his power. The scanner's screen flickered, and a cold robotic voice announced, "Ice-based ability detected." Leon removed his hand, and the scanner continued to glow momentarily. Moments later, a panel in the wall slid open, revealing a turbine. Holographic instructions projected into the air, indicating that Leon's ability should be used to make the turbine spin. Leon nodded at the instructions and began to use his power. Ice shards materialized around the turbine, attaching themselves and spinning it rapidly. Pandora watched in amazement as the turbine whirred at an incredible speed, producing a dazzling display of electric arcs and flashing lights. "This is how we generate energy for the city's network," Leon explained. "We essentially sell our own energy. Do you have any superpowers that can produce energy?" Pandora tensed slightly at the question, but kept her expression neutral. She wasn't about to reveal anything about her abilities, especially not here. Instead, she shrugged, letting the question hang unanswered. Leon didn't press the issue further. He continued operating the turbine for a few more minutes. The speed was so intense that even Pandora's heightened senses struggled to keep up. After the turbine had spun for a sufficient time, Leon stopped and heard a beeping sound. He pulled out a card and held it against the scanner. Another beep confirmed that the transaction was complete, and the machine dispensed a small amount of money. Leon looked at Pandora with a satisfied smile. "That's how it's done. It's a simple way to earn some cash in this city, ready to head to our next stop." Pandora nodded, relieved that the conversation had moved on. Pandora and Leon emerged from the alleyway, blending into the vibrant flow of the city. The gleaming skyscrapers towered above, their metallic surfaces reflecting the artificial lights that illuminated the streets. People moved with purpose, some rushing to work, others chatting casually as they wandered past. The hum of vehicles and the soft buzz of technology filled the air. Pandora followed Leon through the crowd, her steps steady but her mind racing with the unfamiliarity of it all. They soon arrived at a cafe, a small but modern establishment with sleek glass windows that allowed a view of the bustling street outside. Leon gestured for her to sit at a table near the window, while Lola, ever the silent companion, stayed outside, lying down obediently. The cafe was warm, and the smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. Pandora shifted in her seat, feeling the weight of her own unease. Outside, people passed by, paying little attention to the massive wolf that lay near the entrance. It was as if Lola didn't exist to them, despite her imposing size. Leon reached into his bag and slid a small, silver-blue box across the table toward Pandora. As soon as it hit the surface, the edges of the box began to glow. A soft hum filled the air, and the corners of the cube emitted a pale blue light. Pandora's eyes widened in surprise. She had never seen anything like it. Leon chuckled at her reaction. "That, my dear, is a hologram projector." He pressed a small button on the top of the cube, and instantly, a shimmering hologram materialized above it. Pandora blinked, her confusion evident as she stared at the display. "Hologram, projector," she muttered, her voice laced with both curiosity and awe. "Yeah," Leon said with a grin. "It's a holographic computer of sorts. You interact with it the same way you would with a touchscreen, just, in the air." He reached up, swiping his hand through the hologram, and a series of floating icons appeared. Pandora watched closely, her natural instincts driving her to learn quickly. Leon gave her a brief tutorial on how to use it, explaining that the interface was designed to be intuitive. With just a few gestures, Pandora found herself scrolling through various online pages. She came across the website of the Hero Association and several guilds, each showcasing their heroes in dramatic fashion. The screen was filled with advertisements, promising safety and valor. Images of heroes defeating monsters in chaos zones and protecting cities flashed before her eyes. They posed in triumphant stances, their faces filled with determination. One image, however, made Pandora pause. It was a woman with long purple hair and piercing green eyes, barely clothed in what appeared to be a thin string wrapped around her body. Pandora stared at the screen, feeling a mixture of confusion and disbelief. "Is this how most heroes dress?" she thought to herself. The sight made her feel as though some heroes were more focused on appearance than their actual abilities. With a flick of her hand, Pandora closed the hologram and looked up at Leon, her lilac eyes meeting his. He was smiling, taking a long sip from his beer. Outside, Lola's breath fogged up the window as she stared intently at Leon, her eyes almost unnervingly focused. Pandora glanced out the window, noticing how people casually walked around the enormous wolf without giving her a second look. She turned her attention back to Leon, who was leaning back in his chair, sipping his beer, eyes calmly scanning the streets through the cafe window. "Has your internet search answered any of your questions about Metropolis Alpha?" Leon asked casually. "Your father mentioned you grew up pretty sheltered." Pandora nodded, her mind still partially focused on Lola outside. "Some questions, yes, but one thing that really stood out to me, what's with the strange outfits the heroes wear?" she asked, genuine curiosity creeping into her voice. The purple-haired woman she saw earlier, in her bizarre, revealing costume, had left quite an impression on her. "Why did they dress like that?" Leon chuckled softly and shrugged. That, heroes, especially the ones who aren't strong enough to make a name on pure power, try to stand out. They want people to remember them, to leave a mark. The flashier, the better, I guess." He took another sip, then added with a smirk, "I don't quite get it either. Some of them even name their attacks. Like, really yell it out before they strike. Blazing Thunder Punch, or something ridiculous like that." He shook his head with a small laugh. "Seems kinda dumb to me, but it's become a thing." Pandora nodded thoughtfully, taking in the information. It was all so strange to her, this world where people craved attention, even in battle. It seemed so different from what she had learned. Her instinct had always been to stay hidden, to remain unnoticed. Attention was dangerous. Her eyes wandered back to Lola. The large wolf was now resting peacefully, her giant body curled on the ground like a gentle giant. Despite her size and power, Lola had a sweetness to her, a softness that made Pandora smile. The wolf reminded her of her own dual nature, a creature capable of great strength, yet at the same time, tender. Leon broke her thoughts once again. "Are you hungry?" he asked, motioning toward the cafe menu in front of him. "We've been walking for a while. Might as well grab something. Pandora shook her head, shrugging slightly. No, I'm not really hungry. It wasn't exactly a lie. Her appetite was often suppressed when her thoughts were preoccupied. But deep down, she knew the real reason she avoided food was to hide her true nature. There's just a lot on my mind. Leon, perceptive as ever, nodded without pressing further. Fair enough, he said, as he waved the waiter over to order something for himself. Pandora's thoughts swirled. She glanced back at the bustling streets of Metropolis Alpha, her anxiety creeping in. She wanted to understand this world, fit into it somehow, but how could she? If anyone here ever found out what she truly was, not just a vampire, but someone who could manipulate chaos itself, she knew how the people would react. They didn't understand chaos energy. They feared it. And, as her parents had taught her, people feared what they didn't understand. Fear led to violence. She suppressed a shudder at the thought of being discovered. Her powers, her ability to shift between her human and vampire forms, were secrets she had to guard closely. And the chaos manipulation, if that ever got out, it could be catastrophic. It wasn't just about hiding her vampiric nature, she had to hide what she was capable of. The world around her wasn't ready for that kind of knowledge, and she wasn't ready to face the consequences of being revealed. Her brooding thoughts were momentarily interrupted as Leon's order arrived, a plate of food set down in front of him. The scent of it filled the air, but it did nothing to stir her appetite. She watched as Leon began to eat, his movements casual, as if this were just another day for him. Pandora's eyes drifted out the window again, and for a moment, her troubled mind quieted. The city continued to buzz around her, but her attention was drawn upward as a soft, pale light caught her eye. She blinked and realized that the second sun had risen. It was smaller than the main sun, its glow a gentle bluish hue. She watched as its light filtered through the buildings, casting a surreal, almost ethereal glow over the city. For the first time that day, Pandora felt a small sense of peace. The sight of the two suns in the sky, bathing the city in warmth and light, reminded her of the beauty in the world, despite its dangers. Even in this place full of uncertainties, there was something magical about it. Something worth admiring. She allowed herself a rare moment of calm, her eyes fixed on the twin suns. For now, she would focus on the present. One step at a time, she told herself. She would figure out her place in this world eventually. But for now, she was simply Pandora, sitting in a cafe with Leon, watching the city as it basked in the light of the second sun. Pandora leaned forward, her curiosity piqued, as she asked, "So, Leon, what are these superpowers exactly? How do they work?" Leon, wiping the corner of his mouth after finishing a bite of his meal, leaned back in his chair. Superpowers, well, there are a lot of different types, but most people's abilities can be broken down into 5 main categories. These categories don't really follow a strict order of importance, but I'll list them off for you. Pandora nodded, leaning in to listen closely. The first class, Leon began, includes the weaker abilities, the ones ranked E to F. They're mostly the minor, everyday stuff that's not very useful in a fight. Think of things like slightly enhanced senses or the ability to levitate small objects. Not much impact. Pandora listened carefully. She knew that in a world full of heroes, power could range from mundane to terrifying. Next, we've got the combat abilities, Leon continued, his tone sharpening slightly. These are the skills people use in battles. They're offensive and defensive, and they can be used strategically. You've got your fireballs, ice blasts, force fields, those sorts of things. Most of the heroes you see on the news fall into this category. Their powers are meant for fighting and taking down threats. Pandora nodded, already familiar with the flashy displays of power that often came with combat abilities. Those were the ones most glorified, the ones that caught the eye of the public. Then, we have the support class, Leon said, holding up a third finger. As the name suggests, these powers are designed to help others. Healing, enhancing someone else's abilities, boosting their stamina, or even granting them temporary strength. Support abilities are crucial in any serious fight, even if they don't get the same spotlight as the combat ones. No one can keep going forever without some help. Pandora tilted her head thoughtfully. The idea of support abilities seemed more noble to her, less focused on destruction and more on keeping others alive. Leon continued, the next class is the creation class. Now, this is where things get interesting. People with these abilities can manipulate or create matter, changing what already exists or bringing new things into the world. Imagine creating weapons out of thin air or reshaping the environment around you. Those abilities are rare, but when you come across one, you remember it. Pandora's eyes widened slightly at the thought of such power. Being able to reshape reality itself sounded both incredible and dangerous. And finally, Leon said, his tone shifting as if preparing to discuss something more profound. There's the Styler class. This category is a bit of a mystery. The abilities in this class are powerful, but their nature is unknown. It's like trying to understand the distant stars. They exist, we know they're out there, but how they work, no one's really sure. Pandora leaned in closer, her violet eyes shimmering with interest. This was something new, something beyond what she had learned before. What do you mean by unknown? Leon shrugged. Take Veldona, for example, one of the most powerful heroes in existence. He's said to have the ability to rewind the environment around him, as if time itself is under his control. But no one knows how it works. Whether it's actual time manipulation, or some form of advanced reality bending, it's never been fully explained. It might be that those in power are keeping it secret, or maybe even Veldona himself doesn't fully understand it. Pandora's eyes lit up, fascinated by the idea of such overwhelming power. She'd heard of the rank system before. F through X, but hearing about these specific abilities made it all the more real. The idea of being able to alter time or reality itself stirred something inside her, a sense of awe, but also a nagging fear. She knew what it was like to have abilities that others couldn't understand, abilities that made people afraid. Do a lot of people have these Styler class abilities? Pandora asked. Leon shook his head. Not really. They're extremely rare, and most who do have them don't fully tap into their potential, either because it's too dangerous, or because the powers themselves are so unpredictable. Sometimes, having that kind of power isn't a blessing, it's a burden. Pandora thought of her own secret, of the chaos energy that pulsed within her. She knew better than most the weight of holding something that could bring fear or destruction if not controlled properly. She wondered briefly if anyone else suspected the truth about her. Leon, for all his kindness and casual demeanor, hadn't pried too deeply into her past or abilities. Perhaps he had his suspicions, but he seemed content to let her reveal what she wanted, when she was ready. As if sensing her unease, Leon smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Don't worry too much about that stuff, though. Most of the people in this city don't have anywhere near that level of power. It's not like Styler class heroes are walking around every corner. And even if they were, I doubt they'd notice anything strange about you. Pandora's heart skipped a beat at that comment, but she quickly composed herself, giving Leon a small smile in return. Thanks, Leon, she said softly. Outside the window, Lola shifted, her breath fogging up the glass as she lay down, watching Leon with an unwavering, intense gaze. Pandora couldn't help but smile at the sight. There was something oddly comforting about the giant wolf, despite her intimidating size. Leon glanced out at Lola and chuckled. She's a good judge of character. If Lola trusts you, then you're all right in my book. Pandora's thoughts wandered again, thinking of the world beyond this city and how much she still didn't understand. But sitting here, with Leon, discussing superpowers and the strange intricacies of this world, she felt a bit more at ease. She knew that her journey was far from over and that the secrets she carried would only grow heavier with time. But for now, she allowed herself a small moment of peace, content in the company of someone who didn't pry too much, and a giant wolf who made her feel safe. As the second sun continued to rise, casting a pale blue light across the cafe, Pandora's mind briefly drifted away from the weight of her powers and the secrets she held. There was a whole world of powers out there, powers that were unknown, powers that were feared, and perhaps powers that were misunderstood, just like her.
And that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to recommend my channel to your friends as well. This story was crafted with the help of ChatGPT, and it took a lot of effort to piece it all together. If you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed writing it, let me know by subscribing. On the left side of the screen, you can check out my latest video. If you click on the right, you'll be directed to the playlist. I hope you liked it, and if you click on the top of the screen, you'll be taken to my YouTube channel where you can find all my stories. I hope you enjoy them, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.